next speaker, Mr. Vishnu S. Reddy. Mr. Vishnu has around 20 years of experience in construction industry and 10 years in the access equipment industry. Currently associated with JLG Industry India, Mr. Vishnu has been part of the journey along with the end users, customers, and rental companies from the nascent stages of access equipment in India. Today, he will be sharing his views on procurement checklist for aerial work platforms. So let's welcome Mr. Vishnu.
Thank you very much, Gurleen. Good afternoon, this is Vishnu here from JLG. But I just wanted to show you a few pictures of the access equipment in itself and the complexity in choosing one. It just looks like a boom or a scissor just going up high, but there's a lot of activity which comes when you select a machine. So in my presentation, I would be focusing on how you select an aerial work platform. What are the factors that you will consider when you buy it or rent it in either aspects? So that will be the key focus area on my presentation. So, why do we need a work platform? Why in its first place? Because it's such a bulky machine, big one coming out into your project site. The key purpose of an aerial work platform is the safety of it, and then comes the productivity side. Remember, when an aerial work platform is used, one big difference is there is a human life which is up at 180 feet or 60 feet over the machine. It's not a load and it's not a non-living thing. It's a living thing which is on the machine. So when you take that, safety becomes the utmost concern. And that's why an aerial work platform. Yes, after that, you would definitely have productivity because that's a key factor along with the safety. So in safety, what do we look at when you have an aerial work platform? You have a very secure and a very stable platform taking you up there. It's like working from ground. You know, most of us would have been on a ladder at some given point of time. How much would you feel comfortable working on a ladder? As simple as height as a small height of 3 feet, 4 feet heights, you still feel uncomfortable doing it. So imagine our workforce working at a height, say 80 feet above ground, hanging on from a building or on a pipe. Imagine the strain or the safety concern he would be in. That's why an aerial work platform provides a secure and a stable platform. Secondly, is his ability to do his work freely with both his hands. You know, when you are on a secured platform, you have both your hands free to work with. Third, is it's less fatigue. Imagine climbing up a scaffolding, say 40 feet, and getting to do your work and coming down, and compared to just a joystick and moving up 40 feet, getting your work done and coming down. That is a big safety differences which come into with an aerial work platform. And in case of emergencies, you always have an emergency lowering system which will bring you back to the ground with no time. And that brings off safety first to the person who is working, other than the other systems going around it. So that's the safety side of the machine, which brings the aerial work platform into the forefront of using at heights. And definitely that doesn't stop there, and then you get productivity along with it. It saves time. To put up a scaffold to a height of 50, 60 meters, 60 feet is going to take time, and it's going to be that much cumbersome to do it. And here you have a machine which goes up on a click of a button. It could be even, in some heights, it is even auto. So it's easy to complete a job, go up, do your job and come back. It's as simple as that. And it's cost effective as a package. If you were to do a huge building through a scaffold or an aerial work platform, I'm sure the cost of using an aerial work platform, including the time of productivity, would be cost saving. So with this, what do we do? Aerial work platforms help your workforce to be healthy and productive. So that's the very core existence of an aerial work platform. Now let's look at the aspects that we would use to select the right AWP. As I showed you in my first slide, it's not one fit for all the problems. You have different kinds of work sites, different kinds of usage. You see the pictures around, you see the kind of environments a machine would work. So it's very important to know exactly what is the right AWP for you. A simple example, you can have a 30 feet scissor lift in a place where you have to reach 38 feet. You're 2 feet short. That in itself is a risk to stretch beyond a point. So it's very important to know what is your equipment that you're choosing. So these are the factors that will guide those selections. First, the most important thing, the height of the work that you want to do. If you want to do a work at about 60 feet height, you have a machine which is slightly above the 60 feet height, because you don't want to go onto your site and then say you're 3 feet short and not to stretch too much over your platform. So that's the first and most important thing. Second, the work conditions, the work area. If you see an aerial work platform, it's on the ground. And in some of the heights, it's quite heavy. So you need to have a work area or a place which you know all the conditions. Is it a soft soil? Is it hard? Are there any gutters beneath it? These conditions are to be inspected before you select your aerial worker. For example, if your floor doesn't take more than a few tons, then you need to select a machine which is light on the weight but can reach those heights. And that's very important when you select a machine. The width of the pathways and turning radius, that's exactly the path at which you're going to take your machine. You need to be clear of which direction the machine, especially in a factory floor, you may have to reach different points. But then when you have to reach there, you need to know what the aisle width is. How much of a space do you have for your machine to turn? Because of course, aerial work platforms have a very short turning radius all across with their 4-wheel steers and all those gadgets in. But still, sometimes you will be surprised that the sites will beat your expectation. So that's another aspect that you look at. Obstructions at work area. If you could see my picture on the first one, you see there is some obstructions. How do you reach beyond that obstructions? You need to have a machine which can do an up and over height. So those kind of aspects is what you're looking at. Outreach. How far do you want to reach from your machine location to do your work? Up and over height. Again, how far at what height do you want to reach? That also makes a critical difference when you select a machine. And most important, how many people do you want to be on the platform? Remember, aerial work platforms have a limited capacity on the basket. Most of them take between 454 kgs to 250 kgs. So it is very necessary to know how many people you're putting on a basket. We've seen in India a lot of places where a project site would have 3 or 4 people on a boom lift basket, which is not advisable. So these factors are there to select when you select the right aerial work platform. As I move into the next one, how do we increase the use of an aerial work? Like we saw, safety and productivity is something that we understand within this group, maybe within a small vicinity of the stakeholders in this business. But that doesn't stop there. It has to be a practice. Like anybody 20 years back would have not used a backhoe loader for a small trench. Today, it is a practice. And it's similar with an aerial work platform. And it's similar in globally levels where they use an aerial work platform for anything that is at height. And how does it happen? Because everybody understands that human life is more precious than any other resource on a job site. You can take the costliest of equipment standing on your job site, but if there's one precious resource, that's human life there. So when we understand that, then we are talking about how do you secure that resource, and aerial work platforms come very handy in that particular aspect. Secondly, the cost of accident versus cost of safety. Sometimes it looks a very small thing, safety, but then the cost of accidents could be so fatal that when you look back and see, using a safe equipment would have been much, much cheaper in that context. So that is something that we all have to understand. Productivity, we looked at 2 points of safety, but also on productivity. And when you have your less fatigued manpower working on it, and you're doing a job faster, it's basically a profit for you. So when we understand these concepts, I am sure the aerial work platform usage would get better and increase. How can this be done? From all of us who are in the industry, we've all tried to do it at a project level. The top management would understand. Maybe at a site level they would understand, but it has to be the end workers who also have to have the awareness that by using this machine, small contractors, the subcontractors, who have to get aware that we need to use this machine to be more profitable and also be safe. That we will be able to do it when we do, like I've shown you some pictures, when we do these awareness programs at a project site. We need to do some market case studies which used abroad. We bring them, and like Mr. Ketanji mentioned, globally it's trials. There's no operator involved with the machine. The one who's working on the machine is the one who's using it. Those kind of case studies have to be brought in with these regulations here, who are controlling the safety side. And no better thing than experiencing the concept firsthand, using the aerial work platform. Like we always say, it is still very early days for aerial work platform in India. And unfortunately, the regulations are still far cry. We need to build the regulations to have an increased use of aerial work platform. And it's also for the betterment of the workforce who's working there. Now, coming to my point of looking at these aspects, we've put it into two funnels. One is buying an AWP. Second is renting an AWP. It looks very similar from a purchase point of view or a procurement point of view. It looks very similar. It must be the same machine, but a lot changes. When you buy a machine, you're looking for a particular application. So you need to be perfectly sure of what machine you're buying for your application, because you're going to do it repetitively. You need to know what options do you have for doing a particular job. There are different aerial work platforms available. Which one suits you most? Then definitely your aftermarket support, distribution network. Maybe you have a machine working somewhere in Assam. You need to have a distribution network to support it. The training, usage of the machine, which will have your machine perfectly maintained, and also in terms of utility, training, safety. You're buying a machine for safety. So you better have a machine which is safe. So that aspect has to be looked at, rather than looking at a machine which goes to 60 feet. Okay, I need a machine which goes to 60 feet. Or then I look at it, I need a machine which goes to 60 feet with this safety features. Is what you're looking at. And of course, the residual value when you're buying a machine. You're looking at 10 years time frames. What can it do 10 years later? Does it perform at the same level of safety and productivity 10 years later? Those are the aspects when you look at buying a machine. A few things change when you're renting a machine. Of course, the application doesn't change. It remains the same. You still need to know what is your best machine for your application. And the other factors start to change, which is you need to understand the age of the machine. It's not that the oldest machine is a bad maintained machine. Please don't get it that way. A lot of technological advancements happened over a period of time. Machines from 2010 level, a lot of technology which changed, a lot of safety features came into the machine, which come very handy at this point of time. In that sense, we mentioned the age of the machine. Another factor, tire, which looks like any mobile machine, tire is a common thing. But remember, in aerial work platform, those tires also act as counterweight. So when they act as counterweight, you have to be clear on the condition of the tires. I've personally seen machines which run on not aerial work platform tires, but some other tractor kind of a tire for an aerial work platform. Imagine the entire counterweight has been changed. So the tire condition is very important when you are renting a machine. Breakdown support. How is your machine going to be supported when you have a breakdown? Because you're going to bring this machine to make your work faster and safer. But then you bring a machine which is not safe and breaks down. How do you get that support? So that's another aspect that you need to look at. Operator quality. You would prefer not to have a machine with an operator operating at least from the bottom. The operator always has to be on a basket. Do we know that the operator knows that he can operate from the basket rather than the emergency controls? That's something which is troubling the Indian air access equipment for a long time. It's absolutely not a safe practice. When you procure, can you get that into your system which says operator works from the platform? That would be one big change for the aerial work platform industry in terms of safety. The other aspect that you need to check is you have an aerial work platform. Does it have all the safety features working? I can get an aerial work platform with limits which is not working, or which doesn't have a sky sense on it, or a sky guard on the machine. So do my machine which I'm renting have all the safety functions? Does the emergency, in basic, does the emergency lower work on the machine? So these kind of stuff, along with the quality checks, is what you're looking when you are renting an aerial work platform. Please don't, I'm a sales guy. I sell machines. Procurement guy procures the machine. Our jobs end there. But remember, when we do this aspect, there's one gentleman who's going to be on that machine, and his safety depends on our decision. As a procurement, as a sales guy, as a rental company, whoever is renting the machine. So with that, I end my presentation, and I hope this has been useful for you.